You know, we brought up American Pimp a few times because that's the movie that balks you into America's psyche, and I think everybody was kind of polarized by you because that was the first time they really put pimping out there like on a really big scale and exposed, you know, the lifestyle, so to speak. Now, that was in '97. How did you hook up with the Hughes brothers?
Well, the Hughes brothers were talking to a lot of guys about the lifestyle, right? So I guess they were talking to a guy named, they used to call Larry, Beverly Hills Larry. And Larry had them speak to Rosebud, right? So over a period of time where they're talking to Rosebud and then Bishop, you know, and a couple other guys, they ultimately got to my father and to me. And so when they got to me, you know, I was living in a mansion in Forest Hill in San Francisco, doing extremely well. And they said they had never seen out of people that they had spoken to the level of success that a guy in this game could have. And they said, we want to hire you for you to help us with the project. That's why I got credits on the movie right now. I put about maybe 90% of the guys in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And I think they were smart by hiring me because they knew that guys didn't know them and they might be reluctant to talk to them, but they know if I was the liaison that they'd be willing to talk to them. So, yeah, so I put Fillmore in and Kenny Red and mostly all the other guys, you know, about 85, 90% of the guys I put in the film. So it was an incredible project because in the beginning, I wasn't going to do it. I was transitioning at the time. I was doing music way back then. You know, I had my company called Executive Entertainment Empire. And, you know, I was doing some music. And I was reluctant to get in. And then the Hughes brothers, really, Alan Hughes said something to me that changed my mind. And he said, Andre, before you decide all the way no, let me tell you something. He said, do you know that everything that's done on film goes down in history? And I was like, damn. I said, history? It appealed to my ego. I said, yeah, okay, I think I'm going to do it, you know? So that's what just made me decide to get into the film. And I felt like they were, you know, powerful, successful filmmakers after having done Menace to Society. I felt like it would be great to connect myself, the movie, with them. And I thought that would be something over time that I could utilize.
Yeah. Have you, since then, you know, when you in the underworld, speaking to public is very taboo. I bet you had a hard time. I bet you the only reason those other guys like Rosebud, like Kenny Red and those guys, the only reason they did the movie was because you kind of gave them the okay that it was cool.
So let me tell you, Rosebud they'd already found him before they found me. They found Rosebud. They already talked to Bishop. They also talked to a few other guys, right? So a few other guys were already in there before the Hughes brothers got in contact with my father and I. And once they got in contact with me, they hired me, right? Because they understood just, you know, they said to me, man, Dre, we need your help. I said, listen, okay, I'm going to do it. But I'm going to let you know that there's so many different levels, as in every other area of life, there's levels to this as well. There is the stereotype that people see, you know, on TV. That stereotype does exist, but there's other levels of the game that you would not know the guy was in the game, like myself. People didn't know I was in the game because I was taught at a young age, never prepare anybody for your strengths. So, you know, to whatever was slick and whatever was cool and all this kind of stuff, that you would camouflage all those things, right? Exactly. You would keep the cheat up off you, right? Mm-hmm. So when I was in the game, I presented myself, you know, like a straight square. My father would tell me, you go get educated. You learn about how squares move. You learn about what they read, you know, until your mannerisms and your characteristics keep your strengths camouflaged so they'll never see you coming. So this is why I had some of the success that I've had in the game, because I wasn't this guy that people can see a mile away and point out, oh, there goes that pimp, right? So the cheat, it kept the cheat up off of me, you know? So, I mean, again, so there's different levels of the game. So most people never heard what I'm saying, that people will be intelligent enough to know that if an individual saw or suspected you to be this quote unquote pimp, that there's certain doors that would close to you before you can even have access to them.
Exactly.
Right. And to make sure that, here's the remedy to overcome that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you do this movie, man, and I'm pretty sure your face got even bigger out there after the movie. Then the feds came. Let's talk about that because you wound up having to go do some time for a minute. Let's talk about that real quick. How long did that happen after the movie?
So actually, I got into the situation with the feds in the state of Nevada before the ending of the movie, right? Because I remember the Hughes brothers telling me, man, we don't got an ending. We don't got an ending. So when I went through my situation, they said, we got an ending now, right? That's why they ended the movie with me. And so when I was in Vegas, Vegas is a real different kind of place in that it focuses more not on drug dealers, but more or less people that are in my life now, this subculture, gentleman of leisure, pimp. They focus on these kind of individuals. So there's laws there that's different than anywhere else in this country. So when they first gave me a case, they never had a complaining witness. Normally, you have to have a complaining witness before you could say this man is this, that, and the other, right? This was the word of one of the police officers that this is what we saw, this is what we think that's going on. And that's how I got my first case. So when we were fighting the state case, the first case I had was a state case. It was living with a prostitute. That's a law in Vegas. It's a felony to live with a prostitute. That's crazy. Transporting a prostitute, living off the earnings of a prostitute. And what ended up happening is that the state of Nevada went to the feds and asked the feds to help them prosecute me. So my case was the first time the federal government and the state of Nevada came together to prosecute a pimp case. And they put me on TV, made me out to look like enemy number one, right? And remember, they had that young girl. So how we was able, let me just back up a little bit. In the state of Nevada, they have the most lenient kidnapping charges in the whole country. Mm-hmm. The way they call kidnapping, no one else in no other state would say this is kidnapping. But they put a kidnapping on me, and the kidnapping holds life. So I was facing a life sentence, So what happened is my attorney did a writ of habeas corpus, and the young girl that they had, she came to court, and she did the same thing she did with that Fox News, that local Fox News channel in Seattle. She said, you guys are forcing me to do this. He didn't do this. I was doing this on my own. Woo, 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 woo. And so we beat that kidnapping on a writ of habeas corpus. So that case just came crashing down. But the feds indicted me. So I had to go through the situation all over again in federal custody.
Wow.
So yeah, it's cold how they maneuver. But the beautiful part about it is I knew I didn't do all the things that they had said, and that the girl was willing to stand up and say I did it. And the feds, it was a little different story. They've broken gangsters like Sammy the Bull and others, so they put a lot of pressure on the young girl. And even though she was a reluctant witness, she had to testify to, what her experience was. So I ended up getting my big charge was money laundering. Mm-hmm. The Mann Act didn't hold a lot of time because I didn't have a record. So the biggest charge that sent me to federal prison was the money laundering charge. Everybody thinks that was the young girl, but it wasn't the young girl. I got the most time for the money laundering.
So they kind of put you in under the RICO statute?
No. Mm-mm. Hell no. Bless God that they didn't. The money laundering was, where did you get all this money? Where did you get this house? Where did you know what I'm saying? If you can't substantiate where you got all this stuff, then you're money laundering.
And that's a lot of game for the people out there too, because people think because they put bank accounts under mama's name or put this house under daddy's name.
Have your mama sent to the penitentiary.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of little loopholes they got out there. So y'all, all those out there that's dabbling in the underworld, pay attention. Pay attention to what this man is saying.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
do you think, I've seen law enforcement go after certain individuals simply out of jealousy.
Hmm.
Do you think with your success that you had at the time that played a major role in it because they saw the lifestyle on the TV screens and they became kind of, a lot of these police officers get jealous.
Well, of course, I think that is something that would be understandable. How somebody that might not be, they make them good pay as far as squares are concerned. But I understand that, if you keep seeing that, seeing the success, and you see them with beautiful women of all nationalities and races, I would imagine that would tick some people off, and they, especially, the law. People say, well, follow the law. Well, you following the law doesn't necessarily make you a righteous person. Remember, there were laws in this country that were unrighteous laws, like slavery, Jim Crow. You know what I'm saying? Just because there's a law there doesn't mean it's the right thing.
Exactly.
I, to this day, even though I've done a lot of things in my life, I still feel like Canadians feel like this should not be criminalized. If you have two people that are of consenting age that decide that they want to, make some type of a deal, you know what I'm saying? I think that's between two consenting adults. And there's other places around the world that are much more advanced in their thinking than America. America wants to criminalize it and then blame everything on black men. I try to share this to as many as possible. The mindset of the country, the mindset of powerful white men, that are ruling this country and parts of the world. That America is an empire, right? Like every other empire that existed before it, right? What empires do is they conquer lands and peoples. If you go back to the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, to any empire that existed, what they do is they conquer lands and people. So this is what they did. This is why we're in the situation that we're in, because they've conquered lands and people, right? So now that we're here in the state that we're in, there are some powerful white men that feel justified for creating the laws, whether they're just or not. They could do it because we are the ones that conquered. We can set the tone, we can set the laws, and do what we want to do. So there's a mindset in this country of men that really think that way. So we, as a people that have been conquered, sold into slavery or what have you, we in social justice, since you're going to close it out, we need to get into that. This would be a good segue. In social justice, the reason why we have not been successful in combating the system is because we think like victims, right? Mm-hmm. We are saying, why do you keep doing this to us? Why do you keep doing this? Well, understand, the mind of a conqueror says, we got to where we are by doing this shit to you and everybody else. So that's not moving them. Oh, why do you keep doing this? Because we conquer shit. So the only thing they respect is power. So during the time that they killed my brother and I left LA and came up to Seattle to fight for my brother, established my organization called Not This Time, I understood the mind that I was dealing with, that same mind that I dealt with when I was in the streets, the same mind that I've dealt with when I was fighting the system. And I was going to use that understanding that I have to combat what we've been faced with, which is this unlawful, unjustified killings, right? And we've been losing over and over again. No matter how blatant the situation looks, we keep losing. So when I came up there, I said, yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And people, even black organizations in Seattle, they didn't support me or nothing. Oh, he's just a pimp and woo, 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 woo. So I said, whatever, I'm going to do this work. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to show them that I know exactly how to deal with this system.
For more content like this and much more, make sure you subscribe to Digital Soapbox Network's YouTube channel. And don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and share. We out of here.